I mean, the truth is, we have all these hidden issues in life, don't we? And all of those hidden issues in life, oftentimes they emerge during an event. There's some event that's taking place, some transition, some change in your life, and you have all of these issues that begin to boil up. There's the issues and then there's the hidden issues. And most people, we only deal with issues in our life and in our relationships in the context of an event. And when that event is taking place and we find ourselves in the midst of this struggle, most of us, the most important issues are dealt with at the worst of times. And then they're not given enough energy. They're not given enough time. See, we have all of these issues in our life. We're doing life together. We're strolling down, and all of a sudden there's all these potholes, these issues. But underneath those potholes are even deeper issues like caring and control and integrity and concern. See, David did something that was strategic. David did something that was absolutely powerful. In a way, he called a timeout. See, what was happening is David is faced off with Eliab, his brother. Their discussion is getting heated, right? It's going to get out of control. And David did something strategic that we can all learn from. He called a timeout. He said, whoa, 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 whoa. He recognized the truth that he is fighting against that which he should be fighting for. He called a timeout, and then look at what he did. He smarts off to his brother just to show he's not a punk. He says, now what have I done? Said David. Can't I even speak? And then he turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. Now, here's what David did. Okay, David is faced off with his brother, right? The giant is behind him, and all of a sudden, when David turned, he was positioned to face the giant. We do the same thing. So often, we're so focused on these battles over here. My friends, that's not the battle. The battle is over here. See, the story could have ended a whole lot different than what it did. Could you imagine if David just fought with his brother and then went home? We wouldn't be talking about David and Goliath. Could you imagine if David had a bad attitude, he showed up, he threw the snacks down on the floor, and he says, I'm out, and went back home? No, he had the right attitude, right? He positioned himself for when God opened up that opportunity. Some of you right now, you're holding on to an offense. Someone sinned against you, someone hurt you, someone did or said something bad about you or to you, and you're refusing to forgive. How's that story going to end? For you, and for the one you're not forgiving. See, I maintain God is still writing your story. My friends, your story is not over with yet. You may think you know how it ends, but God is still writing your story. Mary and Martha, they thought they knew how it ended. Their brother Lazarus was dead. He was in the grave for 4 days, and yet when Jesus showed up, everything changed. Jesus was not just the resurrection, he was the resurrection. And when Jesus showed up, he called Lazarus forth from the grave. David showed up and he said, you come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the name of the Lord Almighty, because Jesus rose from the dead. My friends, because Jesus suffered and died upon a cross, because he rose on the third day, you and I have the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. We are loved and we are forgiven. And my friends, we know how the story ends. You know how your story ends. So David had to face the roadblock of the ordinary. He could have been a typical teenager. He had to face the roadblock of offense as his brother smarted off to him. And then David had to face the only. You know what the only is? David shows up and he's like, put me in, coach. Put me in. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, coach. Put me in. David's taken to Saul, and Saul, who should have been on David's side, right? They're on the same team. Saul should have been encouraging David. Saul looks at David and says, David says, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go out and fight him. Put me in, coach. But Saul replied, you're not able. You're not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man. And he has been a warrior from his youth. You are only. My friends, what's your only? What is someone speaking into your life? You are only. Or what's the self-talk you've got going in your life right now? I'm only. I can't do that. I'm only. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough. What is the only that you're speaking in your life? That only is the lack of, is the spirit of lack and limitation. David shows up. And I think in David's mind, he's saying this. He's going, okay, it's a different day. I'm facing a giant I've never faced before, but I'm going to do it with the same God. And so David is like, okay, God had defended me all my life. God was there with me every step of the way. I know he's going to be with me right now. My friends, I know some of you are standing before a giant right now. And it's a giant that you have never faced before. And you're telling yourself, I'm only this or I'm only that. And you're wondering, how is this story going to end? What's it going to look like? And I know you're afraid, and I know you're shaking in your boots, and I know you don't necessarily know what to do. But I think we can learn from David. David, who stood before Goliath and talking to Saul, he's saying, well, King, I'm pretty good. I killed the bear. I killed the lion. And I think David in his mind was going, well, God protected me from the bear. God protected me from the lion. It's the same God. Yeah, I'm in the valley of Elah, but if I'm going to be a betting man, David's going, I'm going to bet the odds are in my favor. And he stood before the giant. See, we know who the author is. The story of our life, we know who the author is. Jesus is the author and the perfecter of our faith. He says we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. But thanks be to God, he gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. You see, our story is not over yet. The challenge for us is this. We know how the story ends, even if we don't know how we get there. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that what we face with? We know how the story ends. We just don't know how we're going to get there yet.